George Kilpatrick Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. Raquan Pride-Green is the executive director of Blueprint 15, and they're coordinating with the brand new name Brexia Lee Boys and Girls Club to put on a block party this Tuesday coming up. But before we get to that, well, let's just get to that. Tell me about this block party.
Okay, so since I've been with Blueprint 15, we've been trying to do a signature event every summer. So last year we did a back to school tech drive where we had the video game truck come by, and we had a pal bring in TV monitors with Xboxes, and we gave away 25 Chromebooks to people from the neighborhood.
Chromebooks, go ahead. All right.
Yeah. And we also had 3 iPads to give away, but I forgot about them, so I had to save them for another event that we did in the wintertime. But we still was able to give them away. Before I started with Blueprint 15, like a month prior, they did a block party at that same location. So I thought we should bring that same energy back and try to make it bigger, because having it at that location is kind of centralized in our footprint so that it welcomes everybody from the neighborhood. But we invite everyone in the community to come as well so that they can get a sense of what it is that we're trying to do in our community.
Yeah, and of course the newly renamed Brexia Lee Boys and Girls Club there in the community, and of course Brexia Lee was the 14-year-old who was caught in a crossfire, literally on her way to pick up a gallon of milk or so for her parents, and so just a tragic story. But her name and memory will live on forever at that Boys and Girls Club. And so excited that you're able to partner with that community to do this. And I say that community, actually that is the community, right? That is the community, that is the Blueprint 15.
Absolutely. Yeah. So like for most people, when they hear Blueprint 15, they only think of the Pioneer Homes, but we actually support the Pioneer Homes, Central Village. We're still working on to engage them a little more. And we have a strong tie to McKinney Manor, being that they will go first, but we also extend as wide as Salina Street and all the way down to Carvin Street. So we support the entire neighborhood, but the centerpiece is the housing projects because there's going to be mixed income housing development right there. So that's where everybody's focus is.
That's 212 Van Buren Street is the address of the new renamed Brexia Lee Boys and Girls Club. So with that being said, what is the update? Well, we should tell people that the block party is from 3 to 7 on Tuesday, just so we get that straight, right? It's 3 to 7, and I'm sure there'll be lots of good stuff to eat, games for the kids, giveaways as you suggest as well. So it should be a good time for everybody. So that's one thing. So now let's talk about the blueprint. What is the latest on the blueprint? When will we see some activity around that? And is that also contingent on what happens with and so let's start with that. Blueprint 15.
Yeah. So it's a lot of moving parts that come along with Blueprint 15. But as most know, we're partnered with the Syracuse Housing Authority. So the neighborhood transformation plan with the redevelopment of those apartments belong to them. They're Syracuse Housing Authority units. We're supporting them and we're partnered with them to do the best that we can to make sure that the residents have a seat at the decision-making table, and they're always thought of when a decision is made, whether they're there or not. And all of my staff at Blueprint 15 either currently live in a footprint or, like myself, formerly lived in a footprint. So we have direct ties, whether it's ourselves, friends, and family. So what's to come first is McKinney Manor. It's the least dense. It has 75 units, only occupied by 63 families right now, and it's further away from the I-81 bridge. So for those 2 reasons, it makes the most sense to start there. We're hoping that we can start getting people moved to their temporary locations, either in the winter or the spring of 2024. We've just contracted with Urban Strategies. It's a 3-way contract with ourselves, Syracuse Housing Authority, and Urban Strategies, Inc. They specialize in supporting families with these type of moves. They also will provide support throughout the moving process. So it's not just we're going to help you relocate, but it's also support developing family plans so that they can improve their families, their financial outcomes as well. And then they have first right of refusal to return. So they have the option to return or not return. But throughout that whole time of relocation, they will be supported by urban strategies with follow-up support from SHA and Blueprint 15.
Yeah, and so we talk about temporary housing. What would that look like? Where would it be? I mean, that's challenging, right? Because temporary meaning is that a year? Is that 6 months? And then for the relocation, does that mean that those landlords are going to be understanding and that they're going to do temporary leases, or because what does temporary mean?
Yeah, and so it's projected that it will take about 18 months for the demolition and rebuild. And they have options to move in other Syracuse Housing Authority units. So some can move into the Pioneer Homes. I would say James Geddes as an example, or maybe even Eastwood Homes. So I don't know exactly what they have available, but I do know for sure there's some in the Pioneer Homes. And then there's others who can move into you know, private landlords housing. And they can also move out of the city and out of the state as long as they're in good standing with the housing authorities. So
Right.
depending on where they stand with the Syracuse Housing Authority will depend on what type of voucher they get and what type of support they get as well. But they
Yeah.
will get supported one way or the other.
Yeah, and it's a lot, right? And then once it's done, will they be able to afford to live in what is created? And that's the biggest fear, isn't
Right,
it?
right.
And that's your job, right? Is to convince them that they have that it's not what they think it is, right?
Yeah, yeah. And we want them to understand that this new development is for them
Mm-hmm.
as well as the new neighbors. They are prioritized. They have first right of refusal. And because it's mixed income and it's regulated by HUD still the same way Syracuse Housing is currently, they can't charge any more than 30% of their income. So
Mm-hmm.
we have a term called house broke where we see people buy houses and all the money they make goes into maintaining and keeping their house. And now with the rents escalating, we see a lot of more people becoming homeless or having to, move in with family members to prevent being homeless. So to combat that gentrification and pushing our people out or the housing insecurity is capped at 30% of their income. I'm not sure how it works. Like if someone loses their income, that's something that would be worked out with SHA and the developer. But as it presented to us, it's 30% of their income.
Help me understand then the Blueprint 15's role in all of this, because if the housing authority is in charge of ultimately what is going to happen, what is the way in which you're working with those entities to ensure that the footprint of Blueprint 15 gets executed? I don't. Maybe I'm not getting that clearly.
Yeah, I understand the question because we get asked that all the time. And our role is the community quarterback. So we can't make anyone do anything, but we can't advocate. But our other role is to support making this neighborhood attractive for someone like you who's a little older, who probably owns a home, maybe paid it off, maybe want to live in an apartment style setting, or someone who's younger moving here wants to live in an apartment style setting. Prettier housing is not going to change the neighborhood and it's not going to attract you, myself, or anyone else. So what do we bring to the neighborhood to attract the people? So we're working on building a Children Rising Center. That's like our signature project, which will be on the McKinney Manor lot once
What's it
everything.
called? The what?
The Children Rising Center, and it may become the Rising Center. We're still going back and forth with the name, but what it will be is the early learning center. So not just daycare, but legitimate early learning for ages 0 through 5. What that does is prepare those kids to go to STEAM at Dr. King kindergarten ready. And when you have a good school in the neighborhood, you tend to attract people to want to live in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
What else will be in there is the children's play space. We haven't determined what we will actually call it, but it's modeled after the play space that's in Auburn that Allen Family Foundation supported. So the play space is for age appropriate learning and development through play, parent-child interaction, sibling-to-sibling interaction, but it's all through play. But it has a learning component, and we'll have services like ECA there to support and evaluate the youth as their parents request. Then there's the YMCA, which will be for all ages. So you have health and wellness, you have economic vitality there, and you have education all under one hub.
But the YMCA is going to move?
No, they will not move at this point, but they will establish another branch right there.
Oh, a new branch.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, so the oh, all right.
Yeah.
State of the art, I hope.
So yeah, so I'm glad you said that. So we've always had the discussion that we want you to walk by or drive by and want to stop and check out our facility. And we've contracted these architects called El Dorado out of Kansas City, so that it doesn't look like anything you've seen before in Syracuse because they're from the Midwest and then they have offices in Seattle. So they have a different thought process in terms of design. Um, so we contracted them. We have a committee where they're working with on a weekly basis, which includes some residents as well as experts. And they already started doing renderings, but everything is subject to change when you're in that negotiation phase and that design phase. But it will be right there in the middle of the neighborhood, so that no matter where you live in the neighborhood, you're about a 5 to 7 minute walk. But it's
Mhm.
for everyone. So we're trying to, establish something here that these people who currently live here can be proud of, but that the whole community feel like is for them as well.
Yeah, I hear in your voice, uh, is the word ownership. As someone who lived in the footprint, I do hear that it's something that you're really committed to making sure that the residents are not only advocated for, but that they're always that their voice is always heard.
Yeah, and their voices are heard in a sense where, like, I am the executive director and my neighborhood navigators are my frontline staff, but my neighborhood navigators are sitting on these committees as well. So at any point, there's someone who lives in the neighborhood that will speak on behalf of the neighborhood. When we have public meetings, our neighborhood navigators invite community members to attend the meetings. Sometimes they come in big numbers and sometimes they don't. For instance, in the end of January, we had El Dorado come here to meet with people from the neighborhood, and it was one of the coldest days of our winter. So here I am driving to pick people up to make sure that people are there so that they can give their input to these architects on what they want to see in there, what should the design look like. And we even had a youth component the second day so that teenagers from the community, not just the neighborhood, can give their input.
Talking to Raquan Pride-Green, he's the executive director, Blueprint 15, giving us an update because we haven't talked to you in a minute, and so just wanted to see get a sense of where the project is and the timeline as you described. McKinley Manor will be the first. McKinney Manor will be the first to go, and you project a 2024 start for that project.
Yeah, we project 2024. We was hoping for summer of 23, but there's still some things that have to be negotiated because it's not just us locally. The federal government is involved, the state government is involved as well. So we have to make sure everybody is on the same page and that the contracts and agreements are accurate and we can move forward and do it the right way. We only get one chance to do it right the first time. And
Yeah.
we want to really ensure McKinney Manor residents have a great experience so that it doesn't send negative shock waves throughout the rest of the neighborhood.
And so, as the neighborhood quarterback, as you describe, uh, you're not calling any plays.
I'm calling some plays, but I could take a lot of direction from my board and even my navigators, my frontline staff. These are the people who live and breathe this on a daily basis. But the plays I'm calling are small plays. Like we have partnerships with not just SHA, but the city of Syracuse. We have partnerships with Syracuse University, Upstate, the Health Center, you name it. So doing things in the neighborhood and inviting them to be there and be a presence to talk to the people directly. I have my Youth Navigators program, which are teenagers who are from the footprint, and a couple of interns. So I spent most of my summer having them do some research, but putting them in a room with Mayor Washington, Deputy Mayor Owens, Superintendent Davis, who is on our board as well as the Allen Family Foundation, and we're going to meet with the county exec so that they can get a better understanding of how all these moving parts are coming together. But it also builds their social capital. So as they're moving further along through their educational process in their careers, they're on a first name basis with people that I never got to talk to when I was that age.
And one of the moving parts ain't moving yet, which is 81, right?
Yes.
And so what's the impact of that on the work that you're trying to do in the footprint?
Yeah, so 81 has a lot of impact. You know, when I was growing up down there, that was my grandparents' backyard. So it was normal to me. I never knew that that was an environmental injustice. So knowing that that's going to be removed and that the people want it removed, it's seen as a visual barrier and a physical barrier. With it being removed, it should be allowing more connectivity, particularly east-west, and new streets should be able to be built as well throughout our neighborhood, so you can have that, direct line of traffic to the university and the hospital communities as well, where our people are right there. Because we're also trying to build up our health and wellness initiative, where we don't use the emergency room as our primary care. We do preventative things and have primary care doctors. We have these health centers right here in our neighborhood.
Look at the new health center, right in the footprint, and what a spectacular facility that is uh, going to be.
Yeah, and all the services that they're going to provide. And the old facility will still stand, but like the new one is a lot more attractive if we're going to be honest. So
Right.
hopefully people feel like they get in the right standard of service where they're more likely to go there. And we're working to, build upon that relationship we have with them, but connect them to the members of the neighborhood.
Part of that footprint includes the STEAM school at King, and it is the STEAM school at King, right? I got that right.
Yep, STEAM at Dr. King, and even the STEAM high school that's going to be built is considered
Right. I was
STEAM.
gonna say in the footprint. Now, what's your take on this lawsuit where people closer to that part of some people closer to that part of the neighborhood is concerned about the traffic that's going to go through there and the impact of that?
Yeah, with all the information that I'm gathering, because I'm on the task force with Joe Driscoll and a whole bunch of other people for the I-81 and State Department of Transportation, is they're saying the traffic should reduce because it's being rerouted. So it would discourage a lot of traffic and a lot of cars that don't have intention on coming into our city or downtown or upstate. So I don't have a problem with that, and I don't think it would be much of an issue. And there's more streets, so there's more routes to take, and it should help with the transportation department build more bus routes for our neighborhood. It's a long walk if you live in I would say Frisbee Court, for instance, anywhere over there to get to a bus. The nearest bus you may get is Townsend, which is not running that frequently. So they're probably walking all the way to Salina Street or just the bus hub itself because there's no bus routes right there.
Talking with Raquan Pride-Green, the executive director of Blueprint 15. So now, I saw you this week at the Micron Community Engagement Committee. What's the impact of Micron on the neighborhood, Blueprint 15, and the opportunities that might be there for the residents in the footprint?
Yeah, I think it can have a great impact on our neighborhood as long as the people from our neighborhood want that opportunity. And some of them don't even realize or understand the magnitude of it. A lot of us throughout the community are trying to figure it out. The reason we were there is because they were hosting it right in our footprint, so we should be present.
You have
But
to, right?
again, yeah, we have to be present. Tyra Harris, who's one of my neighborhood navigators, got up and spoke. And my youth navigator, Kareem Brown, was going to speak, but they ran out of time. They cut it short. But I wanted to introduce them to that because when I graduated, all the jobs had left or were already leaving. So a lot of my generation relocated, whether it was the job opportunities that they didn't see here or the lack of quality housing. And then Micron provides the opportunity for our people to stay and have legitimate employment opportunities and entrepreneur aspirations because they're going to require a lot of services. So if you're interested in any of those type of fields or trades, you can support Micron along with the other companies around here for your own personal business and to set up your family economically.
What were the things that what were the priorities that your team named as part of that discussion?
So our priorities in that discussion was making sure that people are aware and making sure that people are invited, and we will figure out how our people can get there. Like, you don't even have that burden. Just help with the awareness, and we will help even spread that awareness. One of my youth navigators stated that they weren't really sure what Micron was. They heard about it, but it was never really explained. So talking with them about better strategies to reach the teenagers, because they say they want to reach that younger population, which we know is heavily relying on social media in terms of
Right.
getting their information. But the best way for us who are older than them, we're not typically friends with them on social media, or we're friends with a small group, is having them be ambassadors of it, but sharing the information with them so they can speak confidently about it when they talk to their peers.
Beautiful. And so it goes. So even though we perceive that all this information is out there, everybody's not receiving it because of how they get their information. So there's a lot of work that has to be done. And help us to understand how they're getting that information.
Yeah, it's so my youth group were speaking on, they will go to Syracuse.com, because I asked, like, how do you consume your news? And they said Syracuse.com, which we know has been on, but that wouldn't attract them if they just saw Micron coming to Syracuse, right? Even if they see the big numbers, 100 billion, a lot of our youth are conditioned to think those things aren't for them. But they reference social media, and they're not on just Facebook. They're on Snap, they're on TikTok. It's like
Wait,
they have
Snap
to
is still a
advertise.
thing? Snap
Snap
is
is
still
still
a
a
thing?
thing for, yeah. It's not as
See,
big as TikTok though, but
it's
it's
still a
still,
thing.
yeah.
Okay.
So advertising through those channels, I think will go a long way. And I always say, like, we have to go into the schools when we want to get information to our youth, because that's the one place we know most of them are likely to be. And they're trying to establish the relationships with the school district here in the school district out in Liverpool. So we have so many schools. It's a little easier in Liverpool. It's one high school
Right.
and a couple of middle schools. We have multiple high schools
Right.
and double that in terms of middle schools.
And charter schools on top of that. So
And those are still city kids. So we want to
right.
make sure they're included as well.
Right. Well, you certainly, we're learning some stuff here. Well, listen, Raquan, come on anytime when you want to let us know what's going on in the footprint of Blueprint 15. More importantly, he wants the residents of the footprint to know that there's a block party this Tuesday from 3 to 7 at the Brexia Lee Boys and Girls Club. And that's at 2, what's the address? 2 what? Van Buren Street. 212 Van Buren Street. Goodies, prizes. And that is put together by the Blueprint and the Boys and Girls Club. So should be an exciting day for the community. And more importantly, with all of these things that are going on, just make sure that your voices are heard, community, but and have a good time celebrate your neighborhood and where you live. So yeah. Anything else you want to add, Mr. Green, Mr. Pride-Green?
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is Blueprint 15 is a part of the Purpose-Built Community Network, which is a national network, and we operate off 4 pillars. So this will help you understand all these things that we're doing: mixed income housing, cradle through college and career education, economic vitality, and health and wellness. We figure if you do the first 3, you'll have a generally healthy and well-off community.
Raquan Pride-Green, the executive director of Blueprint 15. Join them for the block party 3 to 7 Tuesday at the Brexia Lee Boys and Girls Club, 212 Van Buren Street in Syracuse. Blueprint15.org for more information?
Yeah, blueprint15.org for more information.
There you go. Inspiration for the nation.